Hello, this is a video about some ways and some things to keep in mind when engaging in generally serious conversations, arguments, or informal debates. It's something that all of us need to work on, so it's some things to keep in mind. Let's take a look. Debating, arguing, and persuasive conversation. Now, I'm not educated on the particulars of formal debates, so I'm speaking more about friends or groups of people, acquaintances, having discussions about serious topics. Some people like to engage in serious conversations, while others prefer to avoid sensitive or social topics. If you like to learn from others and share your own knowledge and opinions about sensitive topics, here are some things you may wish to consider. So here's a list of things that we should do. Number one, only argue or engage in an in-depth conversation if you understand the topic well. And if it's important to you, you should take the time to study it from multiple sources and perspectives. If you are not willing to study unbiased material, you should refrain from arguing about that topic. So unbiased means neutral sources. So you cannot take all of your information from one side. Refrain means do not do it. So if you are not willing to study a variety of sources, just do not argue about that topic. However, if it is a topic that's important to you, I would think that you would be willing to invest some time into looking at it from multiple perspectives. Those might be printed sources like books, news articles, online material, and by speaking to a wide variety of people from inside your own circle and definitely outside of your circle. Number two, listen carefully to the other person's points and information. Sometimes when we are really upset or passionate about a topic, we look at the other person, but we are not listening at all. We are just ready to jump in with our point of view. You need to truly listen in an attempt to understand or try to make sense of what the person is saying. Speak clearly and stick to the topic. So make sure you are easy to understand. Stick to the topic. Don't jump around from this idea to this idea to this topic, because it gets very confusing. Number four is very important. Provide evidence. This should be facts from reputable sources, studies done by unbiased groups, statistics, etc. So if you're going to try and prove a point, you need to offer evidence. Simply saying, I know, or I believe, or they told me, so I know it's true, is not sufficient. Be prepared for questions and counter arguments. When you are in a serious discussion and the other person is involved in this, in order to truly learn something, he or she is probably going to ask questions. You need to be prepared to have reasonable and educated answers. If you get angry or frustrated when you are asked questions, you are not prepared to be in this discussion. Number 6, after the conversation has ended, take some time to reflect. Think about what you heard and learned. Be open to changing your mind. I've told people a number of times that this is still what I consider the most valuable skill that I took from my university education. Yes, I learned more about English and how to be a teacher and science and math, but I truly believe that learning how to not just believe what I'm told or to be satisfied with what one person tells me, but rather to then go study it. Look at it from multiple perspectives before I decide what I believe is true or what I believe is right, is the most important thing that I took from university. I'm not saying that you must be well educated in order to do this, but I think it does take practice, because our natural instinct is perhaps to pick an opinion, perhaps what we've always been told, and just stick with it and push through with it. However, it is a skill to be able to critically examine and figure out if that opinion actually is true or actually makes sense. Some things that we don't want to do during a debate or conversation. Don't constantly interrupt. So if the other person begins to make a point, don't jump in right away to add your opinion to that. Give them a chance to explain it. Number 2, don't ignore or disregard everything the other person says just because it goes against your opinion. So you need to listen, and after the conversation, perhaps look into it, research it, but fight the urge to say, no, I don't agree. I don't like that. That doesn't make any sense when the person is speaking. Sometimes you just need to listen, research it after, and if you find it to be false, after taking the time to learn more about it, you can then discuss it again with the person. Number 3, don't change the topic if you get uncomfortable. So sometimes we make a point that people don't want to hear, don't know how to respond to, are embarrassed about what they know or what they believe about it. And so they'll say, oh, yeah, well, what about this? Or, hey, look what just happened outside. If you're changing the topic as soon as you get uncomfortable, you look weak and scared. Number 4, don't call people names or attack their character. Don't tell people that they just don't understand the topic simply because they disagree with you. So stick to discussing the topic itself. Do not get into criticizing the person. So to say, you're just stupid, or that's really dumb, or if you don't understand or you don't agree with my point, it's because you just don't know anything about it. Those are not helpful in a conversation. Number 5, refrain from being over emotional. So of course, when we're involved in a topic that we're passionate about, we're going to have some emotion. But try not to start crying or screaming at the other person. Try to remain calm and present your points in a reasonable manner. Number 6, don't try to prove your points based on a few stories you have heard or false statistics. So if I'm being honest, this one right here is a giveaway, we would say, that makes a person look uneducated, or in many cases shows us that they truly are not educated. And that is an inability to realize that your own experiences or those of a few people you have spoken to are not an accurate way to make a point. So for example, well, my grandma said, that's nice. Your grandma does not represent the truth of the world. Or, well, many people told me. Yes, they may have, but again, that is not evidence. That is not fact. These are some examples I've heard that may sound familiar to some people. Smoking can't be that bad for us. I know 4 people who lived into their 90s and they smoked. I've heard this from several people. Just because you knew a few people who were lucky enough not to get lung cancer does not mean smoking is safe. If we look at the health statistics, smoking causes the majority of lung cancer and throat cancer cases. So your experience with these 4 people certainly is not a way to form an opinion or decide whether something is safe or not. Because by simply looking up the statistics, you can find the truth. Number 2, people say drinking and driving is very dangerous. I've driven drunk many times. I'm fine, right? Again, that's your experience. If you look at the statistics, the police files, the studies that have been done, the SGI accident files, you will find very quickly that drinking and driving is a dangerous combination and the cause of many accidents. Number 3, I heard about 5 people who converted to this religion or this group or this way of thinking. It has to be true or they wouldn't have done that. Again, your personal experience hearing about these 5 people is fine, but did you look at the statistics? Did you look at unbiased sources to see how many people left that group? So to say 5 people joined, and so that makes it true, you are not taking into account perhaps the thousands that left. We have to look at things as a whole rather than just picking out little pieces that sound good to us or that someone told us in order to convince us something is true. Number 4, I realize this is a bit controversial, and I'm simply pointing out a truth. People keep saying that it's dangerous to marry and have children with your cousins, but I know they're lying because everyone in my family is married to a cousin and we're all healthy. I've heard this many times. I know it is a common practice in a number of countries. Yes, there are many cases in which it works out very well. But again, you can't base something on a group of people that you know and take that to be the truth in general. It's very easy to look up the statistics for this point, and you will find that marrying a cousin doubles your chance of having a child with a genetic condition or birth defect. That certainly doesn't mean it will happen to you, but it is a fact based on hundreds of medical studies that the chances are double. Number 7, don't disagree with things that are clearly true or proven facts, because that just makes you look uneducated. So here's a book. You can see what it says on the pages, and you will still find some people who will say, the book does not say the flowers were red. Oh, well, maybe it does, but it means blue. Okay, you can argue that if you wish, but we can read, we can see what it says, and we know what it means. Trying to say that reputable sources, so scientific studies, statistics, fact sheets, things like that, well-educated people, so perhaps professors who've studied a topic for many years, are wrong, makes you look weak and stubborn, or even arrogant, if you insist that you are correct when it's clear that you are not. So if you don't have a background in studying a topic very well, or learning or finding out statistics, things like this, and yet claim you are right based on your opinion, and therefore all of these reputable sources are just wrong, does not make you look very good. And deflecting shows that you are not confident in your opinion or correctness. So if you feel uncomfortable and you say something like, oh yeah, well, yesterday I saw you yell at your son. You're trying to put a negative light on the other person to take it off yourself if you don't know how to answer, or you realize that your point is a little bit strange. Putting it on the other person in a random way is not helpful to the conversation. Debating topics with others can be a great way to learn, but only if you can listen carefully, base your arguments on facts and statistics, and be open to changing your mind. If you can't do these things, it's best to stick with surface level discussions about things such as the weather, work, movies, family, or cooking. If you realize that your facts are not logical or are incorrect, just admit it. Life is a constant journey of learning. To refuse to learn cuts you off from this journey. As I said, it's something I consider one of the most valuable things I learned. There have been many times in my life when I've formed an opinion and then entered into a conversation or self-studied and realized, maybe I didn't exactly know as much about that as I should have, and my points weren't correct. And I have changed my opinion. So if you are unwilling to actually consider the other person's facts or to learn more about it, there's very little point in even engaging in these conversations. But if you're willing to use them as learning opportunities, and you have the ability to use that information to make a more educated and informed decision or opinion, it can be very useful. So hopefully there was some new vocabulary and a few new ideas that will help you. Have a great day.